Good morning. We've got another long day of interviews today. I think I've got 4. I don't know. We got to figure out a way to fix this. We got to figure out a way to help these parents and these kids get back together. This cannot be allowed to continue. Something needs to be done. 22 million parents are victims of parental alienation. Children are taught to fear and reject loving and available parents. Family courts contribute to the alienation. No one is held accountable. It's time to come together and change that. To learn more, go to parentalalienation.resource.com. Today we're interviewing Jonathan. He is trying to navigate his way through the family court system. Let's hear what he has to say. While we're waiting for Jonathan, I just want to tell you these 3 books are definite if you are dealing with the family court system and parental alienation. So this is Litigating Parental Alienation by Ashish Joshi. I recommend this one to everyone. If this is the only book that you get, this should be the only book that you get. Parental Alienation, a handbook for mental health and legal professionals. This one also very good, a little bit harder to read. And then Parental Alienation, Science and Law, also very good and a little bit harder to read. But these are my definite top 3. Oh, that's okay. Everyone has a little difficulty with it in the beginning. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. How are you?
Good. Good. Pretty good. Early. It's a little early. Well, not too early, but early enough.
Sure, yeah.
So, why don't you tell me a little bit about your story?
All right. Let's see. Around 2007, 2008, I had been married for 8 years by this time. And I started to realize that my wife had significant uh, mental illness, something going on that she had come to find out she had been hiding it or masking very well. So as I started investigating and getting help, reaching out to mental health experts, we went to counselors, therapists. I started researching on my own and found, okay, this is pretty serious what's happening. And there is a root cause for it. It goes all the way back to childhood. This is your childhood trauma. This is the link. And when this abuse from her childhood started coming to the surface that she endured from her family, she flipped the script on me and then made me the scapegoat and said, well, now you're abusing me. And I had never abused this girl. I had been very patient trying to figure out what was wrong. We had had 5 children together, and this there was something that was way off, way wrong. And that's what initiated all this. So,
What were you noticing that you felt was wrong?
it was um, sabotage. I would give her a very good budget. I mean, I had a very good job. I was a minister at a church. I had been doing this for about 8 years. That's all I had ever done, basically. And I was good at it. It was a good job for me. And so anyway, like, I would give her a very good budget for clothes or for food, and she would know, like, she would always go and blow it on something unrelated, that she would have some crazy idea. It was just chaotic, and it started to
Mhm.
get more and more. Like, she just bought like $500 worth of grain one time in buckets because she wanted to make bread for her family. And it was just like, wow, no, that was for underwear or something. And then she would get on to me and say, well, you're not providing for us. You're abusing me, and you're not giving me my basic needs. Like, I need bras and underwears. And I'm like, whoa, no, this is not what I'm doing. I'm providing for you. I have a very good job. We have plenty of money. But she was in this lack mentality of, you know, and all this started coming to the surface because she had been neglected as a child in all these ways. Like,
Mhm.
food was used and withheld from the children. They were physically beaten. They were emotionally assaulted and put down all the time. And
So she was
they,
always on guard. She was like,
oh, for sure. It was like all of these things she suffered as a child, she turned and put it on me and said that
mhm,
I was doing it to her in the real time, in the
right.
present. And this was maddening. And so it was like a snap when she realized that she could not fool me anymore. As soon as I was on to what was happening, like I knew that there was something way off, that she was pretending in a big way, that she was not at all what she had pretended to be for many years. Like she had held this together for many years. So she like just snapped and then went around to all these agencies, law enforcement, the courts, and started telling them that I was the one abusing her, that I was abusing the children. She accused me of the most horrible things, false allegations of all kinds of sexual abuse, inappropriate, everything.
Mhm,
And these are things that are outlandish to me that would never occur to me because I am a loving father who protects my children.
right.
And so she didn't just go to these agencies and start telling these stories. She created this false narrative for the court. But I've learned from my adult children that she was telling them, she was telling my young children uh, that they should just be prepared for it because I will most likely sexually abuse them at some point. And she was filling their head with these ideas as they were young children. I did not know this was happening. There were many things that were happening. There was alienation happening under my own roof that I didn't even know about. She was
Yeah.
telling them things, planting seeds years before I was even on to any of this. It was such a, like if you've seen the film Gone Girl, it was like a pre, all these steps were set many years before I even had an inkling that something was really wrong.
Right.
And so the root goes back to all this sexual abuse. And the link is that those allegations are what are used against me so that she can run off with the children. She took them from Montana, she took them to Florida. She took them from Florida, she moved them to Washington State. And I was trying to keep up and find them. I was driving across the country trying to find them because she was doing this without telling me what she was doing. And she was using the false allegations of abuse as her excuse to be able to do that. She
Right.
was telling law enforcement, oh, we're fleeing for our lives. We're in danger. He's a horrible, abusive, manipulative person and all this. And I just became the scapegoat for it. And so that happened, that started around 2008. We finalized our divorce around 2012. And I had court ordered visitation, but I was never able to exercise it. I would drive from Montana to Washington State, and she would withhold the children and hide them from me. And I would waste all that time and money. I would go to the court and say, look, she's not honoring the court ordered visitation, and they would not do anything. They wouldn't say, they wouldn't hold her in, what's the word?
Contempt.
Contempt. They would not hold her in contempt when she was not honoring the court ordered visitation over and over. This wasn't just once, it was like spring break, winter break. I was trying so hard to be involved in their lives because I knew she was abusing. I knew by this time she was abusing them horribly. A
Right.
lot of this, and see this Gypsy Rose character that has come out. This is a very similar story to what my wife, first wife, endured because she was abused in this way and taught to hide it. And then she's now taking it out on other people as if I'm abusing her when I wasn't.
Right.
So anyway, I hope that is clear. It's very hard to. There's so many details. It's so hard to explain.
Right. How old are your kids now?
My oldest is 23. My youngest from that marriage is 15.
Okay. Do you see them,
I have not seen them for more than 10 years.
even the 23-year-old?
I have, it was a couple of years ago, I was able to see her briefly for like a day. I mean, for like a supper. I got to see her for a few hours because she's of age and she can come see me if she wants. She wants to have a relationship with me, but her mother is very controlling toward them and just punishes them if they have anything to do with me,
Right.
basically.
Right.
So it's understandable. My second child, son, and my middle son, they both are very, very upset with me, and they don't want to really have anything to do with me because they believe the picture
Right.
that she painted for them. And she started on them when they were very young. So they don't even know who I actually am.
Right.
And so I have the court and that whole side of my family and everyone that she has influenced, all of these people forcing this false narrative on me. And it's very hard because I've been living under that for,
Right.
10, 12 years. And so now I know that it is affecting my mental health, and it's traumatizing to me and to the children. And the system will not look at the root cause of this. They just
Right.
won't. They won't investigate it. They won't listen because I provided all of this information for the counselors, the therapists, the guardian ad litem, the attorneys. I provided this for everyone, and it was all ignored uh, for a false narrative where I am just a deadbeat dad, an abusive father, an abusive husband.
Right. No, I understand, and you're definitely not alone. So, did you take it to court in Florida or Montana or Washington? Which?
Okay, I initially started in Washington State, and I fought with everything I had. I probably spent $25,000 of a lot of money that wasn't even mine,
Right.
and got absolutely nothing. Got nothing. They just believed everything that she told them and honored it as
Right.
if it was fact. So I got nothing out of that. So then the child support began, and they were going after me for $3,500 a month. My child support was $3,500 a month when I told them I make about $2,800 a month,
Right.
and they set it at higher than my income. So
Right.
I have
Which
not
that's
participated. Yeah,
good.
I have not participated in that. I will not participate in that. So wherever I go, Washington State contacts that state. I have been in it with Illinois and the state of Florida, and they have done everything. They've suspended my license. They've gone after my employers. We became self-employed, and we've done just fine self-employed. But we're just fortunate. I know not everyone can be self-employed. It's very hard. And so now I am currently in uh, a case with Florida because the Department of Revenue is coming after me to honor this support. It's like $250,000 now because,
Mm.
again, I'm not participating. And I have been writing to them for more than a year. I've sent them all these statements, all this documentation, um, and they're not even reading the documents. I've gone into the court clerk numerous times and I have said, okay, I want a hearing. I demand a hearing. Let's have a hearing. And they say, well, you have to call this number. And so I go and call the number and they say, well, you have to file this form with this office. And so I go and do that. And I say, okay, I'm ready for a hearing. And they say, no, you have to call this number. And so I call this number, and I'm not even kidding. It is a endless cycle of, no, it's not us, it's another agency. You call this number, you write to them, you contact them, and I cannot get a hearing. I cannot get any help. I cannot get anyone to even read the documents. Everyone I call on the phone, they just say, well, it's not our job to read the documents, it's just our job to file the documents. And I said, well, who is reading the documents?
Hmm. Now, what state is this in?
I'm in Florida currently,
And
yes.
you're filing these in Florida.
Yes, this
Okay.
is currently open. It's with Pinellas County. And I really can't get anyone to read or move on the documents that I'm sending according to the protocol that they're all telling me. I mean, it's always one more thing that I have to do.
Right.
Um, and
Are
so
they
it's just
threatening you with jail or anything?
no, they threatened to suspend my driver's license, and they threatened to report this debt to the credit reporting agencies, which I told them straight up. I said, I don't care. I've already had my 5 children taken away from me and
Right.
kidnapped and taken from me, and all these decisions made without any input from me.
Right. Yeah, no one
And
cares about the kids. They just care about the money.
right, I don't care about a driver's license.
Right.
I drove for years with a suspended driver's license. It's my children
Right.
that have been taken, and that's the part that nobody cares about. That
It definitely seems like no one cares about it in all of the legal system. I don't know what their agenda is, but it's definitely not for happy, healthy families. That's
well, I
it's not
know
on
it's a
the
racket. I know that the attorneys, the guardian ad litem, the commissioners, the judges, the child support, or I'm sorry, the child services offices, they all get huge revenue out of this. They are
Mhm.
all putting thousands and thousands of dollars in their pockets as individuals. And I know that the family services, child and family services, receives federal dollars for each child they keep in their roster. And so
Right.
they are under a lot of pressure to keep these children in the system to receive those federal dollars. And I'm bringing that right to the court. And they don't, that's part of the reason they don't want to talk about it, because it is corrupt. It is beyond corrupt.
Right.
The way that they interview all of us and get all of our information, all of our financial information, all of our family information, and they see the total picture and they see how they can manipulate us in any
Right.
way they want. They know I don't have the resources to fight it. And so they
Right.
take every last penny that I have and take my children and then ask me to pay for it. I'm not going to fund the abuse of my children. I'm not participating in that, you know.
Right. Right. Well, and someone should be helping you um, enforce the court orders that are because you have a court order right now, don't you, that says you have visitation?
Oh, of course. But the law enforcement will not help. It's a civil matter.
Yeah.
It it is maddening. And in essence, it sounds crazy, but we are slaves. But my children have been trafficked for money by the system. And I have now become a slave to the state of Florida, to the state of Illinois, to the state of Washington. And they just take my driver's license away. They every time I've gotten a job, they have threatened my employers and said he owes $3,500 a month, and my employers laugh and they're like, I don't even pay him that much. How am I
Right.
supposed to withhold a percentage of this? This is terrible. And some of them wouldn't even participate. One guy ripped it up and threw it away. One place was so intimidated that they asked me to leave.
Right.
And I lost so many jobs over this. And it's all on false narratives from God bless her, from a severely mentally ill woman who was severely abused as a child. And it's time that we go back and look at the root cause of this, because it's just being perpetuated. See, and now my children have been subjected to this.
Hmm.
And if they do not get the help that they need, then they will likely end up in a similar situation and subject their own children to this once again. And so I'm definitely a cycle breaker, in this scenario. It is a lonely path, um, because even my own parents, they are of a different generation and they don't understand. They're like, well, why didn't you just pay the child support? And I'm like, well, you don't understand how numbers work, because I
Right.
can't pay money that's more than what I earn. And see, here's part of the reason it works so well is because I was a minister. Okay. I have a degree. I'm college educated. Okay. And I was very good in what I did. And as a minister, you can't just go across town and get another job, at another
Right.
company, another
That's
church. Most ministers have to move towns to get another job. Well, now I'm a minister who's divorced, and my wife is making all these false allegations of, it doesn't matter to the one who hears it if it's false or not. The seed has
right.
been planted. It is one of the most potent, destructive lies, and I
Yeah.
have
And
lived it.
easy for a woman to
Right,
say. Ev-
right. They, you know, the things did happen to her as a child, and so she has at some point realized how effective these, when you say these things, people listen. And
Oh
so
yeah.
she knew what to say, and knew how to plant all the seeds along the way. It's just mind boggling.
Yeah. They definitely know how to play the system.
Yeah.
So I heard, are you remarried and do you have more kids or?
Yes. And as fate would have it, my current wife has complex PTSD diagnosed. She has gone through therapy and done a lot of work. She was also severely abused as a child. I realize now I attract these type of people, and I've had to do my own work, to understand how this works.
So what conclusion did you come up with and how you attract these kind of people?
Well, they all I attract a lot of mentally ill people because they say that I feel safe to them.
Okay.
Um, and so, just a real quick background, I was running a music school, and we had around 85 students. We were hugely successful. And many of my students were seeking therapy for trauma. A
Hmm.
large number, they had mental issues, a lot of autism, ADHD, a lot of these issues, and music lessons help so much
Yeah.
that they
Music
were
helps.
coming to us, yeah, in droves.
Yeah.
And we were getting so burned out. We did this for years, and we were starting to realize, oh man, these children, they are troubled. And God bless them, these families were opening up to us and telling us what these children were going through. And some of them were being sexually abused at home by family members. They were being pushed in and out of the system, being abused by foster parents. And so these families were just telling us all about it. And I'm realizing, wow, this is happening to a lot of people. And it happened to my current wife. And see, we have now, both of us have come out of these family situations. She's estranged from her family, and she came out of it with the intent to help other people.
Mhm.
And so she has done a lot of work. She has owned her own things, and she's come to grips with that. And now, I've written a book on healing. We're trying to just help anybody that we can, even our neighbors. If we meet people, we're like, hey, how can we help you with this? Because it is such a problem. People are in the dark, and they don't even know,
Right.
they don't even understand the trauma that they're dealing with.
Yeah. And I think helping when you're in a situation, even if you need help yourself, helping someone else kind of helps you as well.
Sure does, yeah.
So, so
Yeah,
what
I
book
got
did you
two.
write?
Oh, it's just a book called Healing,
Uh-huh.
and I wrote it kind of with my children in mind, especially my adult children, to give them sort of a path to get started on. Because when it comes down to this, we're kind of on our own, in a sense that it's really up to us as an
Hmm.
individual whether we're going to heal or not. Yes, these things were forced upon us, and it is not our fault, but it is now our responsibility to process it, to own it, and to make the choices that we can make, you know, and
Right.
to have control over what we can, and make the right. Um,
It's like any injury. Even if you're in a car accident and you lost your leg, you have to learn how to walk again.
yeah, yeah. It's a kind of a harsh truth for people to, you know, face up to, that we're kind of alone in that. But I mean, once you make that kind of that switch in your mind, you can do it. Anybody
Yeah.
can do it. And that's the point of my book, is to remind people of who you are.
Right.
Like, you have this innate ability, you have this power within you, and you can overcome this. But you have to remember who you are and what you're
Right.
capable of. You really do, every individual. And so that's what I want my children to remember, that look, they got a really bad deal out of this. They deserved a whole lot better. And it's not even about casting blame anymore. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's about, this is what the situation is. This is where you are. And
Right.
this is the path that you need to take to get to a place of healing. These are the steps. I mean, tiny little easy steps. And it's so fundamental. It's getting up and moving your body. It's taking a walk. It's just eating a little bit better. It's not being on your device so much. It's meditating on nature a little bit more, and not being sitting around on the couch, you know, so much.
Right.
It's just little things like that that jumpstart a uh, a path to healing and just better mental health in general. And I think so many times people are looking for some special formula and some magic formula, when it's just simple self-control. It's just a tiny little adjustment here or there to build up your self-control, and then you'll feel better about yourself, you know. And so it's just very simple stuff, but it is geared toward people who have gone through significant trauma like this.
Right. The the sad thing about all of this is the kids are missing out on such, like yourself. They're missing out on everything that you could provide to them and everything that you offer them. And I see that in a lot of parents, and that's, I'll cry. But
Yeah. And I was going to say, see, I have three children in my current marriage. My wife's daughter, who is my stepdaughter, who's 15. I have an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old with Ashley. Those are our two children. And these girls are outstanding kids. They are very well educated. They are entrepreneurs. My 11-year-old has a dog walking business. She has
nice.
clients, and she keeps a little notebook, and she goes and does interviews on her own. 11 years old.
Right.
And see, these children are loved, and they are cared for as they should be. And it is one of the hardest things to deal with, that when we're working so hard to provide even a simple thing as a good meal. I know that my 5 children from my other marriage, they were not provided for in this way. They were left many nights with no meals. The mom she would just lock herself in the room and say, eat some cereal or something. And they would all have to just fend for themselves, and they didn't have money.
Right.
None of us had money. We were all enslaved.
Right.
Every dollar that we were making was being quadruple taxed and taken, garnished. So
Right.
that's slavery. It really is. And I'm just so glad that there are people like you and other folks that are trying to speak up. There are no resources for people like us.
No.
There are no agencies to help men get visitation enforcement, you know, because there's no money in it. It is
Right.
a racket, and it's I mean, a billions upon billions of dollars a year racket.
Right. Well, I'm hoping to do enough videos and cause enough public outrage to uh,
Yeah,
to start
I'm
something,
trying.
because something's got to change.
Yeah, I'm trying not to be too passionate here. I don't know, you can edit all this. Feel free to
No,
edit it.
I'm not gonna edit it at all.
But I am to that point where it's like, I'm not a violent person, but who's going to do what they're supposed to do here, and who's
Right.
going to hold the people accountable for
And they're
what
your
they,
kids.
yeah,
You were put on this earth by God to protect them above anything else. Like,
right,
you're supposed to freak out when it's your kids. You're supposed to be angry. You're supposed to be passionate.
exactly. It is
It
righteous
is
anger.
unnatural to not be.
Right. It's a righteous anger because I know my children are being harmed and the
Right.
state, the system has taken away all of my ability to protect them
Right.
because they have just chosen to believe a false narrative that makes them a whole lot of money.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. And I've, in a sense, I've had to give up. I mean, I had to give up many years ago because I did not have any money to travel to Washington State anymore to
Right.
even try to see them. I had no money to send Christmas presents. We have been put into poverty. It
Right.
totally. I mean, but we have, we've stepped up. We ran our music school, and we've been performing and doing well in the sense that we can eat. We do
Right.
eat fine, and we have clothing. I mean, we live in an RV, and
Mhm.
we kind of do this because of our music, because we travel a whole lot with that.
Right.
Um, but we're not living in the upper middle class. We're lower middle class, and
Mhm.
on paper, with especially with the child support debt, we're definitely living in poverty.
Right. Right. But and that definitely shouldn't be that. So do you even
No,
know where your kids are? Like, do you know where they live and all that kind of stuff? Okay.
yes, and I've just recently obtained through some court documents their current address. And see, this was hidden from me for many years that their mom had bought a property. Their mom bought like a 6-acre spread and has a house. She's a homeowner, you know.
Right.
And I only recently found out this address because she had been telling me to send correspondence to some other address. She obviously didn't want me to know that she had, you know.
Right.
So I think the three youngest are living with her still. The two oldest are in and out.
Right.
Now I do know that they have a horrible relationship with their mother. They are always bickering and fighting and arguing and having very big fallouts. Because, as far as I can tell in all my research, their mother has borderline personality disorder. Definitely signs of being a sociopath. She just lies so easily and
Mhm.
has no remorse or care or feeling for the harm that she's causing everyone around her. It's it's mind-boggling. But I do know that their relationships are strained, and they have, my oldest daughter especially, she has reached out to me strangely. Well, it makes a lot of sense actually. My oldest daughter, Addie, is actually very close with my current wife, Ashley, because they have very similar experiences.
Mhm.
So Ashley is estranged from her mother, who was severely abusive to her. Munchausen's by proxy, crazy making, sexual abuse, all kinds of horrible, horrible things, similar to the Gypsy Rose thing, just not a wheelchair, more of a mental, psychological torment. And so this is serious, deep stuff, and there's a reason I got roped into all this. I know, you know what I
Right.
mean? It's
Yes.
like
Yes.
it's starting to make more and more sense as time goes by. But my oldest daughter Addie and Ashley are becoming very close, and they're sharing a lot of things. They talk a whole lot more. They're in contact even now on a
Good.
regular basis. Yeah,
Good.
and so there's a lot of healing happening there with my oldest daughter. She's starting to, well, see, she has gone through so many horrible things. She got addicted to heroin. She had a
Mhm.
baby at like 18 and put her out for adoption, or I think a family member is raising her at this point, and
Mhm.
she's fine. The child is doing well as far as we can all tell. But my oldest daughter went through all of that and has now kind of gotten clean. She's been through rehab a couple of times, and now she's on a good path.
Good.
And so that's how she's able to connect with Ashley. And that's our goal now, is to be like, well, hey, all this happened, and here's what we've learned, and here's the best that we can tell you to help you come through this, and you can heal. You really can.
Right. And
I
there's a
believe
lot
it.
of life left. You guys have a lot of time,
Yeah,
and a
I
lot of
believe
life
it.
left.
Yeah, I do believe that. And we are reaching out, and we want to get healing for everyone, even their mother, all of
Right.
these people, Ashley's mother, everyone involved. There's healing for everyone. And that's what we want. We care for these people. We've gone through the stages. We don't wish harm on any of these people, even though it's been very difficult.
Right.
We want that to be clear, that there's love for everyone, and that's what we want. And that's all we can do, really. That's at this point, we know the system's not going to help us. There is no help there, and
Right.
there's
No,
not.
there's no help there.
So it's just up to us to love, to choose to help shed some light on this path that others can travel along with us if they want to have that kind of healing. That's
Right.
the best we can do.
No. No, that's great. You definitely have a good story. And hopefully people pay attention. And where can you buy your book?
It's on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
Amazon.com. It's in the self-help for abuse section,
okay.
and it's in paperback and ebook. Yeah.
Okay. And it's called what again?
It's just called Healing.
Okay.
Yep. And it's got a few good stories in there about things to illustrate, trauma and what we're kind of dealing with. And I think it's a good resource for anyone, really, because even if you have not endured this kind of trauma, if you know someone who has, the book can help you kind of understand where they're coming from and what kind of the darkness that they're in, and the fog that they're trying to navigate. That's one thing I've noticed, because I was a very sheltered child, and I did not
Mhm.
experience trauma until I was in my 20s. So
Right.
I have this,
And then they're like, here it is.
yeah,
Take it
yeah, I
all.
have a different foundation, that
Yeah.
I've continually fallen back on, this foundation of love and a solid family environment and that sort of thing. And I think that's part of the reason all these many of my friends, I can't even tell you how many of my friends, acquaintances, they had the opposite experience. So opposites attract in that way. And so I've seen a side of this that we, as sheltered people, we don't understand what these traumatized folks are going through.
Right.
We don't have any concept of that. And so I'm trying to perhaps bridge that gap between these
Right.
two groups of people, those who have been traumatized and those who have not, because there's a big chasm there of
Right.
misunderstanding. Yeah.
Right. Oh, well, thanks for making me cry. But I'm just kidding.
No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to
That's
do
all
that.
right. That's okay. I cry easy sometimes.
I do too.
Do you? So, well, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we conclude
No,
this? No.
I appreciate your giving this some attention and getting the word out there. And I am sure, since you're dealing with this, you've either been through it or someone close to you that's been through it. So
Yeah.
we share that. And so I thank you for doing whatever you can. I've thought many times, what else can I do? What can I do to help other people? And, I'll get on social media and rant and rave and try to
Right.
shed light and help people understand what's actually happening. But really,
Right.
what
Well,
can we
that's
do?
important too, because 2 years ago, I didn't know what parental alienation was.
Sure.
I had no idea that people did
Right.
that. No clue. I mean, and my mother wouldn't tell me who my father is, and I just found out a couple weeks ago. Well, I don't really know yet. My daughter did a DNA test, and we matched with a family. So I know who my first cousin is. So her father, one of his brothers is my father, but they both passed away. So
My goodness.
So, but I don't know. I mean, it'll be nice to get to know them. They have a big family and they're all kind of close. So
Sure.
we'll do something with that. But
There could be something really beautiful there. That's really awesome.
yeah. But maybe I'll edit this part out.
Yes, that's okay. You edit whatever you need. Well, this is wild because, see, my wife has similar stories in her family of children being born in total secrecy and nobody in the family even knowing. Like,
Right.
like a woman showed up at dinner time one time. Is like, hey, I'm your sister, and I don't even know who my dad is. Like, what?
Yeah. That's gonna be this when it comes to a head. When I find out
Oh,
who, yeah,
right.
I'm gonna be a surprise.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, God bless you, man. That is wild.
Thanks. So yeah.
And I
We'll
hope we
see.
can stay in touch. I'd love to hear how this goes.
Absolutely.
You're right in the
Absolutely.
middle of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right in the middle of it. And I don't want other people to have to
Of course.
deal with that. So
Yeah. Okay.
people like fathers like you out there who want to be.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, all right. So we will conclude this and we will talk again later for sure.
Yeah. God
This
bless
was
you. Thank
good.
you so
God bless
much.
you too. I'll
All
talk
right.
to you soon and I will do everything that I can to help you.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
You're welcome. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.